Dinesh is saving for the education of his children. He wants to be able to save enough to send both of them abroad for higher studies. He is investing in both equity and debt funds. But equity and debt are two different markets, and their returns do not behave in the same manner. Sometimes equity markets give a higher return. Sometimes it's debt. Therefore, the value of the money that Dinesh has invested keeps changing. Dinesh is now worried as the equity market returns have been lower in the last few years. It's difficult to predict equity markets. Should he shift to debt or stay invested in equity? How often should he be making these changes? What if he gets the timing wrong? Dinesh's dilemma is very common. The only thing that Dinesh cares about is the value of his investment. Therefore, the fluctuations in that value have to be reduced. This can be done if Dinesh moves money from equity when the risk increases and puts it into debt, or vice versa. But Dinesh is not a magician. He cannot tell when equity might fall or debt might rise. Instead of trying to guess the market, Dinesh can put a rule in place. He can use the principle of dynamic asset allocation. It is a system for determining how much should be in equity and how much should be in debt, based on a mechanical rule. Consider this table that uses a rule based on yield gap. Let's understand what this table means. First, it uses a number called the yield gap. This is the ratio of the debt yield to the earnings yield. For example, if debt yield is 9% and earnings yield is 8%, the yield gap is 1.125. This translates into an allocation of 80% to equity and 20% to debt. That is the allocation to follow as long as the yield gap is in the range between 1.1 and 1.2. The yield gap rule provides Dinesh an indication of how his portfolio should be changed. Importantly, the changes are not whimsical, but based on the returns in the market and how the equity and debt are performing relative to each other. It works mechanically based on a rule that has been tested and set up. It therefore manages the risk and return automatically without Dinesh having to worry about it. DSP BlackRock now brings to you a product that works on the yield gap model. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.